Welcome to Beyond Office Walls, the podcast where we explore the exciting world of remote work and its impact on our lives, careers, and future of work. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. hELO, and in each episode, we'll dive deep into the remote work revolution, bringing your insights, conversations with experts, remote work success stories, and practical tips to help you thrive in this new era of work. Whether you're a seasoned remote worker, just starting your remote work journey, or an employer navigating the future of work, this podcast is your go to source for all things remote work. So grab your headphones, find your favorite remote work spot, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. Welcome to Beyond Office Walls. In today's podcast, we have a very special guest, India Delgado. She's my friend, she's my sister. She's an amazing content creator that has a lot of traits, and she will be discussing with us one of those traits: tech tools for remote success, exploring apps and platforms, seamless remote collaboration. Hola, India, and
What's going on? How are you?
what's going on? What's going on? We have 4 questions for India. In reality, there are 5. But the first one is, who is India Delgado? So, what are some key features to look into tech tools? Can you provide examples of innovative apps and platforms? We got a lot more to talk about. And she is a professional tech hoarder like I am. We buy everything and anything. We test it and we get along so well. You will notice. So, India, we're going to start with the first question. Who is India Delgado? It's not Delgado, it's Delgado. I know.
Delgado, like the way us Puerto Ricans say it with some Boricua.
Delgado.
Delgado. Yeah, there you go. Who am I? I am a Brooklyn born native New Yorker. So I am a New Yorican. And
You're
those of you guys that know me, you hear me saying that. I say that at the end of my videos. I say it at the beginning sometimes of my videos. And that is how we say hello to each other in New York. So that is who I am. I am a tech nerd, older sister of 3, the oldest in my family between grandkids, siblings, and things like that. Dog lover, love to read, good friend with Dr. hELO, and newly converted entrepreneur, solo business person. So I have left corporate America. I've left the working world and I am working on building my business now. And so now that's the next journey and phase in my life that I'm going through.
amazing. So, first of all, if you need somebody to do anything related with video, live video, or podcasting, this is the person. If you're in the Philly, New York area, in the
Yeah.
Northeast, reality, or anywhere else, it can be remote as well. India will produce a heck of a production for to be redundant because I like redundancy. No, but she knows a lot of stuff from the remote work environment, from the live streaming environment, from video, you name it. And I learned a couple things around. And I think I have learned a couple things around. So that's pretty cool.
From each other for sure. We've learned things from each
Oh,
other.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, India, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. It's always an honor to be in a podcast or in a production with a friend, with a sister that we talk every single day, which
Yeah,
is really
definitely.
amazing. So, we're going to start and jump into the first question so we can start learning from what are those key features to look for in tech tools designed for remote collaboration. And how do these features contribute to a seamless and successful remote work experience?
Man, well, we're going to nerd out. What do I pick from? Definitely, I think if I were to talk about the tools that I have, my personal tools, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is Ecamm Live, right? Both of us are currently using Ecamm Live. That is a video production live streaming software. If you've heard of OBS, it is very similar to OBS, but it is a Mac only platform. And I use Ecamm Live daily, regardless of what I'm doing within this journey of your remote collaboration, remote business, remote work, whether it's for the virtual camera, whether it is for creating scenes the way you can see here Dr. Elo did with the lower third on my name and the border around the windows. And for live streaming, like I mentioned, it's important with remote production because now this is a tool, especially for myself as an entrepreneur, where I've gone all in on my business in video production. And even for someone like Dr. Elo, that now we can provide this service of video production to clients and literally collaboratively work remotely, right? Like the whole essence of this podcast to deliver quality content and put it out to the world. I have clients, they're called Country First. It's a grassroots political organization. So without getting too political, but it is a grassroots political organization. And my clients are, there's two of them and they're both across the states. I've interviewed governors from Alaska. I've interviewed governors from like Montana, like all over the world. And it's so easy to just dial in using the link, create your show, and send it out to YouTube, send it out to Zoom or something like that. So enough with Ecamm Live, but I love the ease of use and what you can really do when you're putting out video content to the world. And then with that being said, all of the pieces that kind of link to one another. So I guess maybe I'll say that I'm going to work my way backwards. Like Ecamm Live is maybe one of the last pieces in that puzzle. And if we were to work our way backwards, another piece that you would need to get to this last step is Calendly, our booking availability link, right? I've gone all in with Calendly. I wish, especially with my previous experience in corporate America, with my previous experience in sales, even with like executive directors of nonprofit, I wish that we were to see Calendly used more widespread. And the reason why I say that is, for instance, back when I was working in corporate America as a loan officer, my success was contingent upon external customers, realtors, nonprofit organizations, attorneys, right? It wasn't internal. I had to meet with all of those external customers and coordinating your calendars and getting a meeting going with when I'm available, when they're available. Calendly is a godsend. And that's whether it's remote or on site, but Calendly is a go to. I love the meeting polls option. And what the meeting polls option does is that you can go in and create a one off meeting. You can put up to 40 different available days and times and send this out. I use this all the time when I'm meeting with, let's say, a corporation, and let's say it's 2 or 3 people within that organization. You create this meeting poll, and everyone votes based off of their availability. And then you get to see all the votes that were chosen. And usually, because people will choose more than one available time, usually there'll be 1 or 2 that everybody landed on, and you can send that meeting out effortlessly. And so when you're talking about seamless remote collaboration, having a very good, intuitive, effective calendar tool, right? Meeting tool will be crucial to just getting in the door with setting up your remote collaboration. Some of the new projects that I started working on recently and some of the new tools that I started using, I would say, are Notion. And I know that I've gotten Dr. Elo into the love of Notion now. And I know that I've just scratched the surface, but I've been taking advantage of the project templates feature within Notion. I've worked on documents with clients within a Notion document. You can put deadlines, you can put comments, links. It's so fantastic. It's just a project management software, one location. You can invite people to it. And then you can throw things on there and just really create this timeline of communication and tasks and different things on there, where it's a fantastic collaborative tool when you're talking about remote. And then the only other one I would say that comes to mind for my space in particular with video production, whether it's on site or whether it's remote, after the fact, once the content has been recorded and you are editing, if that's a part of your workflow, that if that's a part of your business, I recently also started using Frame.io. And basically, you edit a project, you can upload it to Frame.io. And that's another collaborative tool where now you send this to a client, which I used effectively for that project, that nonprofit project that I did earlier this year. You send it to the client, and basically, they can go along the timeline and leave comments at a specific part of a timeline, and they can say, shorten this piece, or can you adjust your lower third? Can you put a logo? Can you zoom in here? And so when you get it back as an editor, you can see at the exact point that your client wants work to be done, and you can excuse me, you can resolve comments, you can reply back. And so when we're talking about collaborative tools effectively to be done remotely, right now, that's what I'm like reaching for instantly with where I'm at in my business.
Yeah, and absolutely. If you want to picture how in the corporate world, how is that type of collaboration? It's like a SharePoint where you
Right,
put a
right,
document and everybody's working at the same time from different locations. So the same for video. So it's a really intuitive piece of tech. And to be honest, all of them, all of the ones that we use, are really amazing pieces of tech, and we use for actually for this podcast as well.
right.
So
Yeah, cool.
pretty cool, pretty cool. So let's jump into the second question or third question, I might say. So,
Yeah.
can you provide examples of innovative apps and platforms that have proven to be effective in fostering team collaboration, communication, and productivity in a remote work setting?
That's another good one. I'll probably go back to with Notion. Definitely, I feel, and this is, I've learned this recently. I took Stephanie Garcia's Sales Accelerator class. And one of the things that you learn in the course is how you process information. There's kinesthetic, there's auditory, there's audio, digital, which is what I am. And basically, the auditory digital person, and Dr. Elo, you're probably the same type of person, is that we're process driven, process
Correct.
oriented. Right. So it is a little bit of mix where you need to visualize it. But really, when you're planning things, we talk about it's so fun. So here's a perfect example. With the last question, how I painted the timeline and I talked about Ecamm Live and I took a step back and I talked about Calendly and I painted that process. That's a perfect example of auditory digital. But anyway, I say that because Notion works fantastic, in my opinion, is a fantastic app for people like us, the way we process information. And even you and I, the projects that we work on, we've tried other platforms together, right? As teams, we've tried other platforms. And I think that the one that really for me I've settled on is Notion because of what I've already mentioned with the feature. Google Docs is, and we've used this together as well. Google Docs is fantastic for that. We've had examples, literally, when I say we, I mean me and Dr. Elo, where I've shared a document with him and I'm like, hey, take a look at this. And the both of us have simultaneously, where he's at his house in Virginia, I'm here in Philly, and we have been simultaneously working on the document. And I remember there was one document in particular where I'm in it and I'm highlighting it because I want to question what his note was, but I needed to make sure I processed it properly.
And
And
I got it.
yeah, he saw me right live in real time remotely highlighting it. And then he immediately went back and fixed it. I didn't even need to ask him. It was so cool. And so then I text him and I'm dying laughing because I'm like, well, you fixed what I was trying to do. Right. So even something that's as simple as Google Docs. And that collaborative feature works across their suite of products, whether you're using Google Sheets, Google Docs, whatever their presentation software is called, I'm not sure. But
Google
that whole,
Workspace, I think, or something like that.
yeah, whatever that is, but their whole suite of products that you can work with is fantastic for collaboration, whether it's in real time or in retrospect. You can send a document out to someone and they can go throughout this document. They can highlight sections and they can leave notes and it shows up on the sidebar. And then when you go back and you revisit it, you can see it, respond to whatever it is that they left notes on, resolve it, or just talk jointly about those notes. So Google, I would say that's, and because it's free for everyone and it's available in the cloud and you can use it on your phone, on your iPad, it's not restrictive to having to download an app. Fantastic application. So I talked about Notion, I talked about the Google Docs suite, and then the only other one I would say I'm not in love with, but I've seen the value in it because I've been a part of it. And I know you've been a part of it as well, as I would say is like Slack, some sort of messenger communication app. The reason why I think Slack is okay is What I do like about Slack was the ability to add channels so that you can say, all right, this is going to be marketing. And so anything that's marketing related, you can put and communicate, right? And text and chat in that channel. And then you create another channel that's maybe about an upcoming sales event or an upcoming webinar that you're attending or creating. And so you can really organize yourself in a way, but have a text like platform. I'm just like for me and my business, I don't think it would be a go-to. I would still look for an alternative, but I can see why so many companies use it. And having been a part of it, it is a good tool to use.
I used it too. It's complicated. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
For
I'm
me,
not in love
it's
with it, right?
me neither. I'm not completely in love with it, but it works, I guess.
Right.
Now, also used back when I was with LSB. I used the Facebook
Oh,
business.
yeah. The
That was
workplace,
really freaking
right?
good.
That one was good too,
Facebook
right. Yeah.
Workplace, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
But that was really good because it was, I don't know, for some reason it felt more organized
Yeah.
and more organic. It wasn't
Yeah.
like you had to do stuff. It was there. And even though you do the channels, I think the look of the Facebook background or something, it just made you feel familiar with it. And it, for me, it worked.
I get
But
that.
Slack is what everybody's using right now.
Yeah.
And even though it's an amazing piece of software, I'm not 100% sold on it neither. But
Yeah.
that's what most of them use anyways.
I know. Exactly.
We'll have to come back once we create something.
Exactly.
All right. So let's jump into the next question. I know all of these are very related, but believe me, that you can take a lot of information from this and go with it because right now in the last topic you mentioned Notion. I
Yeah.
was in love with ClickUp because
Right.
that's the one that I've been using for a long time. And when you showed me Notion, I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
I like the openness of Notion that you have a blank slate where you want to start.
Right.
With
Yeah.
ClickUp, you can't do that. I'm torn. I have both of them still.
Yeah.
Overachiever.
Yeah.
All right. And what ways do tech tools contribute to overcoming common challenges in remote collaboration, such as time zone differences, communication barriers, and project management issues?
Another good question. So, communication barriers. For me, I'll say a tool, I haven't listed this tool, but it's been super effective in my business, even back when I was a banker, and I can still rely on is honestly Google Translate. When I've had to, especially when you're talking about more technical terms that you wanna make sure that you convey precisely to someone where there could be a communication barrier. Google Translate has been fantastic with really I just type out a sentence of what I want and having it spit out. And then I'm not gonna say it's related, but not related. But another one with communication barriers is that I think can be helpful is ChatGPT. And I say that communication barrier, now looking at it in a different context, I would say of for me, a communication barrier for me that I know the way I have things processed in my mind. I know it all makes sense in my mind, but it's a big jumble. And so I rely heavily on ChatGPT to do a brain dump and a brainstorm where depending on what I'm looking to do. And so now I'm going to give a shameless plug, Dr. Elo. I am doing a webinar coming up talking about how I use ChatGPT in my business with this example. And I know Elo will put the information links down below. But I say this with communication barriers because that has really helped me even overcome like that anxiety, that writer's block per se, where you're sitting at the desk, you need to get something out. And I've used it with everything, whether it is creating an outline for my YouTube video, creating scripts for my YouTube videos, proposals, scopes of work, retainer agreements, you name it. I've gone in and I've even created like agendas and full on presentations in Chat GPT, just really with me knowing what my ideas are, putting it out on a brain dump, just having a native conversation with ChatGPT, it's really important to make sure that you give it a context of your task. So, what is it that you're looking to do? You explain the role that you are. So if you're giving a webinar and you want it to help you, you can say literally, I will be creating a webinar. I'm presenting a webinar on this topic, right? So you want to be specific with your task, you want to be specific with the role, and then you want to give it as much details as possible. And that has been so helpful for me when I have that writer's block where I just put down my thoughts of I know that this is what I want to talk about. I know that this is the webinar. These are the points, the absolute minimum bullet points that I want to present and I want to teach. And ChatGPT has helped me with that communication to put it in a way of getting my thoughts out, outlined, and then I just go back and I like if you ever look at if I were to ever share my chat gpt threads, they're so long because I'll do the initial brain dump and I just type, this is what I want to do, get all the thoughts out, these are the points, this is important, and then it gives me the initial response and I go back and I fine tune it, then I go back and I fine tune it again. So when you're talking about communication tools, I think that when used in the right context can just be so fantastic with helping you be more efficient and more productive. And I know I went off on a very long tangent on communication. What was the other project management? That was the other half of the
Yes.
questions. Same thing. I would say so definitely r Notion is that one kind of one-stop do it all regardless of what you're doing. Definitely for project management, that is one of the main features of it. And then what I usually do is I tie in 2 different things. I also tie in some sort of task manager app. So depending on the context of project management, but I use, Todoist and I have it on my desktop, I have it on my phone. And so for me, especially when you want to not lose an idea, not lose a thought, I'm all about the brain dump. So if you look at my desk, I have like little post-its everywhere, right? Like I have post-its literally everywhere. And that's so that I get the thought out, I don't lose it. And my structure, my process is usually will be post it if I'm not able to immediately put it on my to-do list, but it'll go from post it to then my to-do list app. And then from my to-do list app, if I need to expand upon it, if it is more of that project style piece of work, then I move it into Notion and I'll add the titles, the descriptions, the sub bullets, so on and so forth.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't use any of those apps because I lose interest in them
Okay.
for the to do part. But I do use Apple Notes. It's so simple for me. I every brain dump that I have, I just put it on Apple Notes. I do
Yeah.
use ChatGPT, obviously, and
Yeah.
I tried to use Bard AI,
Yeah.
which is from Bing, from Microsoft. And for some reason, ChatGPT, I like more of the answers. They were more correct when I got the answers back. Now, one tool that I really use that I use in every day, it's Grammarly.
Yeah.
Grammarly for me, it's vital because it changes the tone. You can choose which kind of tone you want to use in an
Yeah.
email or anything, and I use it for that. Not mostly for the grammar. I'm a pretty good writer, and I'm really picky with the writing. So the tone.
Yeah.
English is not my first language. Everybody knows
Yeah.
that. It's in Spanish, and most of the time, I think in Spanish. So
Yes.
sometimes when I'm thinking in Spanish, I have to put the sentence all the way around, and it loses its touch, its message. So
Yeah.
I use Grammarly to help me do that, and it has worked magic, to be honest.
Yeah, so when we were in the car in Boston last month, 2 months ago, and
Mhm.
you said something, there was something that you said, you didn't have Grammarly on you, so it came through in a Spanish context, and it
Oh,
took me a second.
absolutely.
It took me a second because I was like, I so
What?
the
What?
Spanish person in me, I got it, but we had other people in the car, and I'm like,
You said
"Did
que
you
que?
just say" right. Funny.
Yeah, it's always like that. Yeah, but ChatGPT, check her webinar out. It was not a
Yeah,
shameless plug. You can plug anything in here in this podcast, and you're
thanks.
welcome to it. And I'll put all the information down in the description or in the notes, in the show notes afterwards. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, one more question.
Okay.
And how can organizations ensure a smooth integration of remote collaboration tools into their existing workflows? And what best practices should they follow to maximize the benefits of these technologies for remote success?
Ooh, that's another good question. So I'm going to talk on the context from having been remote. So I've been, I would say, blessed enough to be remote even prior to the pandemic. So when I first became a loan officer, and we're talking about 5 years before the pandemic, one of the pluses of that particular company was having your own office so that I could work from home and not be forced to produce at a location. Like I said, I've been blessed to be able to be remote for a very long time. And then when the pandemic happened, of course, everybody went remote. We continued work and they just went from there. And I say that because what I think companies where they missed the boat, at least in the companies that I've worked with, and it's been a handful of companies that I've interacted and engaged with for remote employees, is that they are not, I would say, really getting to know their employees' style of how they learn and how they work when doing remote. It's just, okay, you're remote, and I think as a whole is a blessing. It's fantastic. I love remote work. I don't ever wanna have to go back to an office every day. I don't mind visiting offices. I don't mind getting out, but as a permanent thing, I don't wanna do it. But that can be detrimental because if depending on the person going back to then that quiz that I told you that I took, depending on that person's style of learning and how they process things, if the company is not understanding their employee, you're setting them up for failure. So you can have all of the apps, you can have all of the tools. If there's not a streamlined onboarding process to get to know that person for remote work, and this can be even for yourself, right? Understanding how you process work, how you do things, understanding what time of day is your brain most active, because there are people that their brain is most active in the afternoons around 1 or 2. There are people that their brains are active at around 7 or 8, and vice versa. So understanding when your brain is most active is crucial to successful remote work, regardless of whether you are self-employed or you work for a company that does allow remote work, because you want to be able to capitalize on that time frame of when your brain is the most productive, the most awake, the most energetic, right? Why would you leave the hardest blood sucking, energy draining task to when your brain is not at the highest capacity, right? That's when you need to be able to produce the best work. And so, knowing if your flow when you get into things, excuse me, is at around 11 o'clock in the afternoon, work on those mindless tasks of checking off emails and whatever that is when your brain isn't functioning at its highest level. So, understanding that, and there are tools, there are quizzes, there are tests, there are things that companies or you yourself can do to understand that when you're in the world of remote work. So I think that that is crucial. And then again, with that, tying in your learning style of then, okay, we use this app, but if this app is for someone who's process oriented and the person who they're forcing to use the app is a visual learner, that's not going to work, right? Like it's, or maybe catering, like Dr. Elo said, right? Like Notion has a whiteboard, a blank page, excuse me, they have a blank page. But if it's someone who's visual, they may need a type of project that is driven by whiteboards. I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say. But I think really my overall point is just whether you are in business for yourself, whether you are in a leadership role that you have to lead yourself as well as lead other people, or you're still working for a corporation and you do have the ability to do remote work, understanding how you process, understanding how you learn, and then understanding what type time of day your brain is at its highest functioning capacity is going to be crucial to your success, regardless of what type of remote work journey that you're on.
Absolutely. So for me, my time, it's a 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, 12, all the way to 1.
Yeah.
1 p.m. after, I start being dragged a little bit. Now, my wife is the totally contrary.
Yeah.
She's at 10, 11 at night, just like her father. They're like that.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
That's where
Night
they're productive
owls.
and boom,
Yeah.
start doing stuff. I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm cleaning. I'm doing this. I'm writing a
Right,
paper." I'm like, "What? Why?" He's like,
right, and you're, like,
my
half
son's the
asleep
same
with
way.
your eyes closed. Yeah.
My son is the same way, which is really funny. And I'm like, oh, over here with my eyes rolling back.
And so that's the blessing, with the exception of your son, right? Because he has to get up and get enough sleep to go to school, but recognizing that so that you can give him the flexibility. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure I can confidently say what's most important is that your son feel comfortable, he feel confident, so that he can get the knock out an amazing paper, knock out an amazing project,
You want to
right?
hear
So it's
something funny?
not you. Go ahead.
He starts school at 9:15, so
Oh,
he
so
loves
that's
it.
not too bad. So
No,
that's
he
good.
loves
That
it.
gives him, yeah, the flexibility where he can work later and he's not waking up to be at school like some kids at 7 o'clock in the morning.
He's gonna hate middle school when it starts at 7 something.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Ooh.
I'm sure. But that's so
Uh,
important, especially, like, for him now that he's younger, because then it's like I said, it's then knowing, especially when you have those bigger projects, of knowing, like, "All right, let me get rid of all these other things that I can multitask, like, I can do something, but I don't have to have my full attention." And those projects that you need to have your full attention, you need to dial in those hours of the day so you can really produce great quality work.
and that's where I, come in and put all my meetings. I put my meetings from 9 to 1 because I
Yeah,
know that if you put a meeting at me at 3 PM, 4 PM,
yeah,
I'm brain dead. I'm not
right,
gonna get exactly what you're trying to say.
yeah,
Maybe during, I don't know, sometimes you go to the bathroom at night and you think,
yeah,
maybe then I'll be like, "Bling. Oh my god.
right,
Wait a
right,
minute.
right,
I got it. I got it."
right, there you go.
Basically, that's yeah, that's good information because nobody thinks about when your brain is working, when your brain is more functional. Nobody thinks about that at
So I
all.
think that was one of the reasons why I loved being a loan officer, because when you're a loan officer, you're doing it's I would say 2 pieces. There's the sales/customer slash customer service piece, but then there's the operational admin piece. So the sales customer service piece is where I'm literally looking for new customers, or I'm interviewing customers and I'm taking their mortgage application and write their documents and telling them about the loans. But then the operational admin piece is actually processing the loan, calculating their income, looking at their W-2s, right? All of that,
Uh,
their debt to income, their credit, all of that stuff. And so I say that because with having that understanding and being in a role like that, it's okay, I can do this customer facing questionnaire, this meeting at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. But then for me, 7 or 8 o'clock at night, I go in and I can sit in front of a computer and process W-2s and process tax returns. But having that flexibility, right, with those jobs, that as long as there wasn't any meetings or anything like that, they left me alone to really schedule my day accordingly. That
touche,
right?
alone, get it, loan officer. No, that was bad. Oh god. Keep on going.
I don't have a ba-dum-bumch. Well, I don't have any I don't no, sorry.
Oh god.
But yeah, but it is, right? It's so important, and not that the company recognized how I worked, but the company did give me the autonomy to make my schedule, and so then understanding that for myself, that's how I structured my days. That it would be few hours in the morning, customer facing calls, realtors, all of that stuff where I needed to be present, or even sometimes meeting a realtor for dinner, right? Like figuring out my time frame and structuring it so that I don't, because then you don't feel burnt out, you don't feel drained. And you can really capitalize and produce great quality work.
Yeah, and the companies can give you as many tools as they can, right?
Yeah,
It's up to you to
absolutely.
learn them and engage with them. Now, the thing that I really like that at least where I work, they're doing as of, I don't know, 5 years back, they established core hours. So those core hours, it's let's say it's from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can start working at 7 a.m. or you can start working at 9 and you can end work at 5 or at 7. It doesn't matter. So you can be flexible with those hours. And basically, it gives you a time where all the people are going to be there at the same
Oh,
time because you're working in a group.
I
So
like
that kind
that.
of
That
works as
oh,
well.
I've never heard of that. Core hours, that's perfect because then it also gives when you think about single moms or even single dads or just parents, that if you know you have to take your son to school at 9 o'clock every day, right? Or you can drop him off at 8:30 so that you can be at work at 9, where another parent may have to vice versa or something like that. So that's actually fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially in the banking world, I've never heard that, and I do wish that a lot more companies would adopt that because that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, that's the federal government who's doing that core hours. And I think they started right before, if I'm not mistaken, right before COVID. And then now it's established because there's people that have flexible hours that work
Right.
4 days a week, 10 hours. There's
Nice.
people who work, I think there's a schedule that every other week they have a day off, but they work like 9 hours for 4 days. There's a bunch
Yeah,
of
I
flexible
understand.
schedules that
Yeah,
they can do, that they can
that's
work
cool.
out.
That's
Pretty cool.
cool.
I don't do any of them. I like working my 8 hours and going home at 3:30. That's it. 72:30. Bye. But I do doing all my content during the night, which is
Right.
just funny. But
Yeah.
all
Cool.
right, India, any last words of encouragement or anything related to any of those tools that you use for remote work?
I would say, going back to how I started off talking about how I've been doing remote work even before the pandemic, the biggest thing, especially if you are looking to transition from reporting to a workplace for a scheduled job or for a scheduled time to now having that flexibility of having remote work, really working with yourself to still have discipline for some sort of work schedule per se, right? So tying in what I mentioned about knowing when yours productive times and knowing when your customers are going to be available, but making sure that discipline is there, that you still have some sort of schedule. Even for me, so my office is down here in the basement. I've been working here for I've been living in this house for 2.5 years. So been working remotely in this house for 2.5 years. And even with leaving the bank back in September, I still get up and I'm down here to work no later than 9:30 in the morning, right? I still have that routine of, okay, although I'm not reporting to the bank, I still have to report to myself. And I have that routine that I'm here between 9:30. If I worked later, obviously I'm going to start a little bit later, but overall, when you look at my weeks and my months, there is a consistent schedule that I follow. And I have that discipline to myself because it can be very easy to fall into that nothing space, that unknown space when you're doing remote work where it's like, ah, yeah, I'll get to it. Or, ah, yeah, like it just have or the other piece of it when you do remote work, because, right, Dr. Elo and I, we both have laptops, and I know he does the same thing. If there's just times that he doesn't want to be in the office, he'll do work from the bed. And I'm the same way. When I don't want to be down here and I want to watch TV and I want to relax, I'll do work from upstairs with my laptop. But what I know about myself is that when I need to drill down, when I need to get serious, I can't do it from my laptop. I can't do it upstairs. So whether it's a big editing project, whether it is something that I really need to get done within X amount of time, I am here in this setup because this is where I do my best work with the least amount of distractions. Creating a schedule for yourself and staying disciplined for yourself, if not for anyone else, for yourself with what your goals are and what you're looking to accomplish is crucial for remote work and making sure that you are successful while you do have your remote work.
Absolutely, yeah. There's sometimes that I really don't want to do anything, and
Yeah.
I still get up. I
Yeah.
still get my cup of coffee,
Yeah.
and I still walk to my separate space, which is
Yep.
I have a room in my house. This is my studio.
Yeah.
This is my studio. Now, right there is my office, my work office. When I have a stand up desk, I even have one of those walking pads
Yeah. I
on the
want one. You got
floor.
one recently. I know. I want one.
Yeah, so I can just walk, and when it gets cold outside, who wants to go outside? So you can
Right.
at least walk while you're doing meetings or while you're reading or anything, and it can
Yeah.
help you out. Now, there are days which I don't want to get out of bed, and I'll drag my laptop in there, but I have my limits though. I'm still up at 7.
Yeah.
I'm still working at 7, and maybe at 7:45 I'm already here because I'm uncomfortable. Because
Yeah.
I know that I need my second screen. I need my
Yeah.
29-inch widescreen monitor to
Yeah.
read the documents that I need and do my work. You'll get used to it. It's really easy to not do your work when you're at home, but I've found that I do my best work from home because I'm applied and I'm responsible with myself. I don't procrastinate
Right.
with my stuff. Like I do
Yeah.
not procrastinate with my stuff. Stuff that doesn't matter, that's not work related, eh, I'll do whatever. But at work, the with the food, with the money that you get for the food and to pay for your stuff
Right.
when you have
Right.
families and responsibilities, I like a grown up. Do your
Yeah.
stuff, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, India. Appreciate you being here. This was really cool to have you talk about my topic a little bit, right? I know
Yeah.
it's which is a different context for you, but it's the same. So
Right.
they're very related. So thank you very much, and you're welcome here anytime. You know how it is.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
All right. Here you have it, Beyond Office Walls, Navigating the Remote Work Revolution. Another amazing podcast with India Delgado. If you have any questions for India or any questions for me about the topics that we just discussed today, please leave us a comment. And also, if you haven't checked the podcast out, let me see if I can get it. No, I always get it the other way around. So, right here, we have a barcode. You can just put your cell phone with your camera and it will open up in the podcast page so you can subscribe and listen to all the episodes about Beyond Office Walls. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And this is Dr. Elo out.